I'm so happy to have my new friend Denise being on the show today, Evie Unbound. Oh my God. We have to thank our mutual friend was Nina, who was also on the Evie podcast a month ago, and it's to introduce us. So
I know.
Denise,
It's
yeah.
so good to meet you through Rosalina. And I love meeting fellow powerful women out there, doing great things. So we connected immediately.
I know we
So
both are single mom. We both
yeah,
have one boy.
one boy around the same age.
Yep, I
Yeah,
can't wait.
we have,
And
we have parallel lives, Evie.
I know we definitely need to have a play day for our boys. And then I find out that you also in EO. In fact, you got awarded for the best like entrepreneur for EO. I think 2020.
In 2020. Yeah.
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 Well, and you recently just got mentioned like the top entrepreneur for Bluebird, right?
Well, our restaurant got named as one of the top airport restaurants in the world
It's so
by
yummy.
Berg, which was like, what? We were one of three US restaurants that got named. Um, and I'm over the moon, floored, honored, grateful, all that. Was not expecting it. So that was
Mhm.
super cool to get that too.
Right. And for I didn't I got too excited explaining and telling people how we met, how our good friend introduced us, how we have so
Right.
many similar, interests, background, and so on. And you also were attorney, and obviously you're not practicing anymore like me. So I like no one want to practice. We're both in EO. So I need to tell people what you do. So instead of practicing as an attorney, you started your Vietnamese sandwich Bun Me, and then it was delicious because I seen that when I was in San Francisco airport. Whenever I fly into San Francisco airport, it was so nice to see an Asian deli, and that's the feel I always get. So how do you start? I mean, will you decide not to be an attorney and then decide to open a Vietnamese sandwich restaurant, or how was that
Right.
transition? Yeah.
I know it sounds like the most strangest path. My path to being an entrepreneur or restaurateur was not a straight one. So as you probably can relate and listeners can relate, being a first generation immigrant, coming into the U.S. I was born in Vietnam, and so the dream was always to be a doctor or a lawyer. And
Hmm.
for me, I ended up becoming a lawyer, practicing in Washington State for 5 years, and really, enjoyed it. But I always had a passion for entrepreneurship. I was always that girl that hustled on the side, So whatever I was doing, I was, I would be real estate developing on the side, or I would be buying, real estate on the side. I was always doing things on the side because I really enjoyed um, leveraging myself and keeping busy and finding other opportunities to make money. So
Hmm.
for me, but getting into Bun Me was kind of one of those serendipitous moments where like everything kind of like a connection of lots of different important moments happened all at once. So for me, this was back in 2008. The context is just got engaged, left Seattle, moved to New York, and I was studying for the bar at the time, New York bar.
Hmm.
And also at that time, I
Another
thought,
common things. We both practice in New York part. Okay. Uh-huh.
I didn't practice. So this is what happened. So I was studying for the New York bar at the time, right? And
Uh-huh.
getting ready to just move, just practice in New York, just doing my thing. And I find out my dad gets diagnosed with cancer. He had only 7 months to live. I'm an only child. So
Oh.
I took some time off to take care of him. And during that whole process, his last dying wish was for me to take his ashes back to Vietnam. And so when he passed away, I took his ashes back to Vietnam. And for me, Vietnam was a country that I heard about. I left when I was really young. I left when I was 3, and I had no known emotional, no connection to it, right? Other than it being my birth country. But the connection was through my dad. So as I took my dad's ashes back, I decided I'm going to go on this like journey for 2 weeks by myself and really explore the country that my dad grew up and loved and my mom grew up and loved. And so I thought the best way to do that is just go solo. And I would just travel from south to north. And
Do you
through that
speak the
process,
language? Do you speak Vietnamese? When you
I do. I speak
Okay.
Vietnamese conversationally. So
Mm-hmm.
during that time, I am eating at street food, stalls. And one of the things I did, and it was my way to connect, was I would ask some of the vendors, "Hey, can you close your shop for like today?
Mm-hmm.
And take me home. I'd love to learn your recipes. I want to hear your stories." And most of them were women. And I think for them, they didn't get to, they don't get to share their stories, right? Because being a street food vendor is kind of the bottom of the totem pole in terms of, businesses in Vietnam. And so some of them were willing to take me in and show me their recipes and tell me their stories. And I was collecting those stories and those food experiences along the way. Unbeknownst to me, it wasn't something that was intentional. It was more of, I just want to connect, right? And so through food. So I'm back in New York now, and I decide, okay, life is short. Dad just died. I
Mm.
really need to curate my life. Like, is this really what I want to do? And having that monumental death just put me in a place where I really took inventory of what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I
Is
realized
your
that,
dad's was it something unexpected and when you find out he was diagnosed and giving 7 months to live? Is this all like, wow, does it happen? You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, it was. I knew he was stage 4, and I knew it. Obviously, you're hopeful, but I knew he didn't have that long to live, and I was so close to my dad. So so the food experiences in Vietnam and him passing really was honestly that spark that made me really rethink what I wanted to do. I was in my
Yeah.
early 30s, about to get married, living in New York. And so now I'm like, I'm going to take a break. I need to figure out, do I really want to go back into law? Is this really what I want to do?
Hmm.
And so as I'm trying to figure this out, I'm at a porchetta sandwich shop in the village, right, with my fiance at the time. And it's this beautiful artisan shop. All they do is these Italian subs. And I swear to God, this felt like it's almost like a God moment or a universe implanting a seed moment. But it was just at that very moment, I felt like I could see I had like a portal into my future. It was almost like a divine intervention, but I had the idea for Bun Me. I had the idea of what I should be doing with the rest of my life
Hmm.
and how it would go, what I needed to do. And mind you, I have no restaurant experience.
I was gonna
I
say,
am
are you a good cook? Like cooking is not my specialty. I definitely don't have the skill for that. My 10-year-old is a better cook than I am. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm a home cook, but I'm not a chef by any means. So this really is a shock to me too, Evie, like that this is the calling, right? And it sounds so insane at the time for me to even think about and even contemplate.
Mhm.
But I knew 100% certainty this is what I was going to do. And what I wanted to do was, okay, I wanted to create an artisan crafted bun me sandwich shop that was that had an elevated experience
Mhm.
that was going to be accessible, that was going to really introduce the food that we love, that I grew up eating, um, to a mainstream audience. At the time I was living in New York, this is 2009. It was still something that people had to go to Chinatown to get, like you had to be a foodie.
Mm,
It was not on your every street corner. It wasn't accessible. People couldn't even pronounce it, So,
yeah.
so at the time, it was still very, very, I mean, people knew about pho, right? But
Yeah.
they just really didn't know about banh mi, which is so surprising to me because there are no Asian sandwiches. Like because of our French colonization, colonial history,
Yeah.
we have an Asian sandwich, and it's the most portable, accessible item to, like, a food item to introduce. So I was like, aha, this is my opportunity. So for me, that's kind of how the spark happened. And from there, I spent the next 2 years just researching the heck out of this business. And, coming from law, we're good researchers, right? So,
Yes.
I started researching it, putting all the pieces together. I was making sandwiches in my home, and just trying all these recipes. And that's kind of how the story came about, and
Yeah. I mean, but you're right
that
about
worked.
but you're right about the Asian sandwiches, right? Because people do know about pho. Because I remember sandwiches for me was something that I don't want to go Subway. I want Asian food. I want something different, and the price is also reasonable. And then I remember while I was in grad school, like if my friends coming from Orange County, that's when you're gonna get banh mi sandwiches on the way to law school. And then I'd be so happy, we'd all be so happy because it was something affordable for us. It was easy to eat because we would just grab it while we're driving, going to the next class or internship or whatever. But then when we go to the law firm or when we go work and they're like, what are you eating? And it was like, when I tell them banh mi, they don't know what it is. So I always have to tell them, oh, it's a sandwich. I just say it's a sandwich. It's an Asian sandwich. It's Vietnamese sandwich. And they're like, oh, okay, what's in it? And then, and
Yeah.
then I was like, I would kind of show them. They're like, what is that? So it was great when I fly into San Francisco airport and to see for me is on the food court where all the food is. It was perfect because you don't really see Asian food. And then when you do, it's always Panda Express, right? That's what you get. So it's so
Mhm.
nice to see something different beside Panda Express. And
Mhm.
it's not because it's just hard to eat it. I mean, I know it's like a little lunch, those box, but it's just
Mhm.
not the same as like you going Subway buying a sandwich to go, So people to go, this is something they will love, especially when you're
Mhm.
traveling. I think this is like a great alternative. So
For sure.
I don't know what the calling, like you said, but great idea. Great idea.
No, yeah, and banh mi was like the Vietnamese hamburger, right? Like
Mm,
that was our
yep.
hamburger. Like in Vietnam, that was the fast food. You'd show up on a scooter. Right now, I mean, obviously cars and whatnot, but show up on a scooter, get a banh mi, head home. Like that was our fast food. That was hamburger for us, right, in Vietnam. So I was surprised that it wasn't as accessible and not as widely known as it should be. So for me, that was my quest and my mission. I wanted to put banh mi on the map, on the national map, right? And
Hmm.
and not just make it just an obscure Vietnamese niche item, like a menu item. I
What was
wanted
your
to put it
first store?
front and center and
Yeah.
celebrate it.
Well, what was your first opening? Was when it was your first store?
So our first store we opened. So now the story goes. I'm in New York. I moved to San Francisco
Okay.
after the market crash in 2008, 2009. We thought New York wasn't a fun place to be anymore, and we moved to San Francisco. And I opened my shop in Pacific Heights neighborhood in 2011.
Got it.
And so April 1st, 2011, which is coming up really soon. But we opened our first store. It was a hit almost immediately, which was
Mm,
a shock because we opened in a predominantly white, affluent neighborhood, right, in San
yeah.
Francisco, which was a huge risk at the time because I remember one, rents are high,
Hi.
right? I
Hmm.
mean, just lots of risks. And then, and getting in the food business, everyone told me restaurant business, bad idea. Like the failure rate is really high. So I remember a seminal moment. We were we were working on the shop and our windows were covered because we were doing construction. And I can hear people outside looking at the sign and going, what is a bun me? Like, what is this? Right. And so there was like for a minute, I was so nervous. I'm like, am I really doing the right thing? Because these people do not know what a bun me is.
Mm-hmm.
So so, so I was nervous about it. I was like, they're either going to not get it or not like the food or find it too foreign. Or really love it. So it was a risk, but I think the first 3 years, every day we would educate our customers because they would come in, they would be open to coming in, but they would always ask those questions, like you said, what is a bun mi sandwich? What makes a bun mi sandwich? What's in a bun mi sandwich? Like, what is a Vietnamese sandwich? Like, so I, we're like 15 years in now. It seems like yesterday, but like now we don't ever have that question anymore. That's not
Yeah.
part of, we're not educating people anymore, which is really nice. But in the beginning, it was a lot of educating, a lot of, getting people used to what we do and what we're serving.
Okay. Well, my question is that because I know Pacific High pretty well. Also, like, what made you
Mhm.
decide to pick Pacific High as your first, store?
Right. So it was intentional.
Mm.
So I didn't open Bun Me to compete with the Lee's Saigon delis of the world, right? That are like smack dab in San Jose or, on Larkin Street in, the Tenderloin, right? The
Hmm.
whole concept was we need to put it straight to a demographic that does not know banh mi at all. And so we wanted to introduce, the whole point was not to introduce, but I'm not trying to make banh mi for Vietnamese people per se. I was trying to introduce it to a newer audience, to really get people that don't normally would even think to come eat it, to come in and eat it. So for us, we were thinking we're not replacing those wonderful places that we all grew up and love, right? The $2 banh mi's and, whatever. But my thing was, if you love our food, you'll really take another step and try other Vietnamese food items. So we wanted to be that
Mm.
comfortable place for an audience that would not normally go out of the way to find a banh
That's
mi.
really smart because I was asking you what was your strategic, right? It's very strategic the way how you start your business from something that is complete a different field or what you were trained. Again, you were trained as a lawyer, so it's very doing research. So that skill helping you to start the business, but in something that completely different like food. And then, but at the very end, I think that is how you were thinking you want to create something for your life. And also you come up with the plan. And then, so that's why I was asking, like, all everywhere. You're right, because Pacific Heights is not that many Asian or Asian restaurant. Um, like, what made you decide that was your first store? And obviously very successful because since then, how many stores do you have now?
Well, we have 5 locations
Five
in
location
San
now.
Francisco, 2 at the airport, SFO airport.
That's what
We
I
are
like.
we just launched our national franchise,
Mm.
a few months ago. And we may be able to make a big announcement very soon because
Okay.
we're definitely leaving the Bay and opening some locations outside in other states. So our goal is to be the Shake Shack of Vietnamese sandwiches. Like, we want to create a national brand around this beloved sandwich that we love so much.
Pick LAX, because then I can have some, please, for my own selfish reason. Like LAX. Um,
I'd
yeah, so
love to come to.
yes, and then we can hang out. Perfect. Yeah, so when
Right, right,
I really like the fact that you have your, the restaurant brought me in the airport. I think because it's such a high traffic traveling, your idea to introduce people about your food, it was actually a great location. And again, for my own selfish reason, like I said, for people who travel a lot, and it was nice to have something different uh, and something easy to go, like sandwiches, but Asian, right? So I think that was a really great move on your part. And I
Yes.
also have to say, when I went there to get my sandwiches, everybody so far, whenever I go, are very friendly. The staff is great.
That's no.
Yeah. So I think as a business founder, they will like to know about their staff, how they're doing. And I was gonna say, what is your mission for your company? What would be your corporate culture for Bun Me?
You mean you mean in terms of our company culture?
Yeah.
Yeah, company culture is something I take a lot of pride in. We it's not something that we just write on a wall and say this is
Hmm.
what we do. We live it every day. So for us, I take a lot of pride in creating a culture that is about putting our employees first or in parallel to our customers. I
Yeah.
don't see it. I know people say put customers first. We put our staff and our customers to first, and that when I say that is like they get great benefits, vacations, we do holiday parties, theme
Oh,
parties, we take staff to fishing trips, we're go-karting, we find little and big ways to have fun, and we do tons of shout outs, we do like ugly sweater days, and just for Christmas, and so we want to I want to create a culture where people it is still very family oriented, it's still a very family run business in the
hmm.
sense that I run it, but like the culture is around, I mean, most of the folks we have, they've been with us forever,
Oh,
right? And
wow.
yeah,
That's a
we're
good
really
sign.
yeah, our managers have been with us forever, so the culture is around really appreciating our staff and treating them well, but also finding ways to have fun and levity in our work. Because I think that I, like we do tons of games, prizes. We just do kind of goofy things, and to find ways to have a good time within the company culture. And I'm proud to say it's resonating with our staff, and
It
we'll
does.
do a book club.
Hmm.
We'll do a book club, and they're reading books,
That's
or
great.
we'll do a little weekender to Napa. We just find, I mean, again, finding little and big ways to really award your staff, treat them like valuable people that are vital to the success of your business, and you can't go wrong. They will be there and they will be loyal. And I think if you lead with that in mind, it's a good formula to build upon.
Well, like I said, when I go over there so far, the service is always great. And then I can tell people actually like happy working there. I didn't get any like dissatisfaction employee or Guangzhou employee when I there. And then you get open pretty early, by the way. So it's not like, because sometimes I have an early flight out, some of the restaurants not open yet. Even though it's a sandwich shop, it's still open. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I noticed. So great job.
Thank
And then
you.
that's what I wanted to know. What is your company culture to make everybody like how you retain the employee? Because everybody complain about how it's really hard to find some people to work, especially in the restaurant business, right? So, but when I was there, I felt like I said, the staff were friendly, great service. You got open early. It was just everyone's doing it's really great streamline. And then so I feel like as a founder myself, I would like to know how my company, how my staff doing. So I just want to share that with you. And in exchange, you can tell me like what worked, what doesn't. So the audience who has a company or who want to start a company, they would know what to do, how to be a leader, right? So thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I understand your next project you want to franchise. And beside that, what would be something you're looking forward to?
Yeah. So franchising is such a big endeavor. So that's taking up
A lot of
almost
your
all our,
time. Yeah.
for us, we will continue to grow corporate stores and franchise stores.
Okay.
So So we're looking at other opportunities to grow corporate stores as well. So growth right now is kind of the main focus is opening more stores in different locations. So right now, all my bandwidth is in growth. I'm
Yeah.
giving myself 5 to 7 years to really grow this baby, and so I'm putting all of my bandwidth to that. So that's what I'm focused
I'm
on.
so proud of you. And then with your leadership, the way how your culture is, I'm sure it's gonna be amazing. And then I can see how you establish the next Asian Burger King or the next Asian, McDonald's or something, or Subway. Yes, it
Yeah.
is an Asian Subway pretty much at this point. So yeah.
Well, we'd love to. That's our dream. That's our goal. And hopefully we'll get there. I feel like you got to have a dream. You got to have a North Star. And
Yeah.
so that's what we're hanging our hat. That's our North Star. We're really hoping to be that brand.
And then I don't know how you do this. I mean, do people ask you that being a single mom, right? You have a little boy. Like, how
Yeah.
do you balance building your empire? That's how I would say, building this huge empire, your goal and your dream, and be a mom at the same time. I know you just took your son for ski in Japan. I'm so jealous. We need to do that next time. Yeah. But
I know.
how do you balance both? Yeah.
I love to. I still am trying. I ask other entrepreneurs and founders too, single moms too. For me, um I balance it in that, well, I'm blessed because my mom lives with me.
Hmm.
So very traditional intergenerational
Yeah.
household.
Hmm.
So she lives with me, which she's a big help. So that's helpful. And for me, just the best time management possible. I do try to have some balance. So my thing is I balance my day as much as possible, having time to work out for at least 30 minutes,
Yeah.
making sure I have one day a week where I'm connecting via friends, people that really like fill my soul up, you know, um, podcasting so that I'm
Yeah.
continuing to like listening to podcasts like
Yeah.
yours. So I continue to grow and learn from others. And so multitasking, as you know, is
Yeah.
our specialty
Superpower, right?
superpowers. So just multitasking and just having good right hand people and delegating, knowing what you're good at,
Hmm.
focus on that, delegate what you're not good at, um, is the way that I'm able to just single handedly focus on the things that I'm very good at so I can move the ship forward.
Hmm.
Um, for me, is how I'm able to manage it all.
Hmm.
I don't have all the right answers, like I'm still figuring it out. Giving yourself some grace,
Oh,
like when
yes.
giving ourselves grace because we're not gonna, you may miss something, and you may not make it to all the events and all the recitals. And so giving that grace because we got to do so much for so many. And um, so doing that and breaking up your projects into very manageable small steps. So for me, I write down every Sunday, I write down what I'm going to do for that week, prioritize the 3 things I must do, and then the rest I can do later. But if I just spend that like 30 minutes on Sunday, my week is so much better. And I feel like it's just incremental small movements over time that make things happen. And so just being organized with your week, your
Yeah.
time, knowing prioritization, just a few minutes one day before you start your week makes a whole difference in terms of how you can get things going. So that's the only way I can do it. I write everything down. I have to stop and think about it, and or else my week is just a mess if I don't do that. So
Yeah.
so that's cool for me.
I love the fact that you said give yourself some grace. I think a lot of time we very hard on ourselves. We forget to give ourselves some grace, right? It's okay. You're gonna miss some recital, you're gonna miss something. but don't punish yourself for it, and then to give yourself some grace on that. And I think that's beautiful. Or maybe for me, just because, and I think it's mostly, as a woman, we're so good at multitasking
Yes,
that there's so many things going on, and we also very hard on ourselves. So,
we
yeah,
are. We are, especially if we're type A,
yeah,
hard charging, accomplished people. We are hard on ourselves, So I've learned that I have to let that go,
yeah.
or else I'm not able to handle all of it, at all at the same time. So
I think this is the reason why we connected, because literally I was just reading this quote earlier, and you literally just said that, is that you don't know everything, and I think the right thing to say, or the right thing to do, is actually acknowledge what you don't know, right? Because this be a different thing. It's like you know everything and you're not learning, but to actually acknowledge what you don't know. So thank you. That was what I learned from the day, and then you just repeat that. So yeah, it's interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So how is so like you have a big dream. I can't wait when you build your empire, because you're already there. Um, Being a single mom to a boy, you try to balance your life. Where are you dating anyone? Are you single? What about time for dating? Because this is actually my personal question for you, because
Right.
I don't have time to date. So I don't know. I'm trying to find out, like, as a single entrepreneur, single mom, like, how do you fit your personal dating life?
I know, Evie, once you figure it out, can you tell me?
Okay. Because so far, everybody on my podcast are married or with somebody, So I haven't got the opportunity to ask them, because it would be like, oh, you would find someone, you would, oh, are you dating? And then my answer is like, I don't have time. So I'm trying to, like, I always invite people on podcasts because I wanted to learn, right? I'm doing this podcast for my own selfish reason too, because I want to learn from you. I want to learn from other amazing women. So yes. Okay. When I
Right.
find out, I share with you, Denise.
No, I mean it's really hard. And I find that yes, I'm as I think about dating, unfortunately at this time and at this moment, it's kind of third, or fourth down the list of priorities at the moment. So for me, dating has to be more casual and more like, hey, like it's got to be with someone that understands this is my schedule, my priority at the moment. It's not always going to be this way, but at this particular time, I'm going to not have,
Yeah.
the availability. And so unfortunately, that's how it has to be, and I'm okay with it because I feel fulfilled and happy in what I'm doing and the mission that I'm called to do in terms of leading this company. But I know there'll be a time when it will, be more of a priority for me. Of course, I would love to have more time. It just isn't in the books right now. So maybe perhaps the tip would be date someone that is just as busy as you. So then,
I don't know.
like
Let
you
me
guys,
know. I think,
so then they're not going to be like at home twiddling their thumbs,
you're
hoping
like,
to.
when you coming home? When you gonna pay attention? Yeah.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. But men have been doing this for centuries, right? I
Yeah.
mean, they've been the ones out there, and they've been the busy ones. But now we're out there, we're the busy ones. But it is a struggle. I have to admit, it's unfortunately at the moment it's not a priority for me. Um, but I think that's how life is, the ebbs and flows, and there'll be a time when that'll be more in the forefront. But right now, the way I see it, Bun Me is like in this launch period
Hmm.
where I just have to put all the pieces in place to get it going in the on the franchise side of it. It's like starting another business. You know, I mean, I have a business, and franchising the business is a whole other business
Hmm.
because it's a whole different customer. It's a whole different way to market. It's building out a whole different infrastructure to support a franchise network is a business in and of itself.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a new startup in the way I see it. So I see it as the startup is going to need probably about a whole year and a half of my almost undivided attention. And
Hmm.
then, and then after that, I can go back and hopefully the guys will still be there, and, I'll still be attractive enough to
No,
like
because you
attract.
always say when you're not looking, that's when they show up. So, when you find yours, let me know.
Yeah, you just gotta, we can't do it all, right? We gotta,
Right.
I realize I can't have it all. I can't have the perfect relationship, the son, the, perfect career. Like I can't have it all. Something has to give. And at this particular moment in life, that's what's giving, and that's okay. And I feel like when I'm ready, then, I'll focus
Yeah.
on it again, So
So,
I think a lot there, I think we'll
I
be
think you're there. Yeah.
okay.
We just have each other. We can just hang out. No,
And
whatever you said, just let you, yeah.
1,000 happy hour.
Yeah, whatever you said, just to let you know, I totally can relate because I have the same answer as you. So it was really interesting. Rosalina said you had to meet Denise. You guys are gonna get along great, and then it's true because we think alike. So whatever you just
Yeah.
said, that's something my answer too. So I guess we're just not gonna be looking and they're supposed to show up, but I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, look, if he shows up and he's perfect, I'm not going to say no, but
right.
I'm not out there actively, looking or trying to make that time, So, you know how it is.
Yes, totally agree. So one more thing, I would always ask my podcast, when we have an interview podcast guests, we always want to know if they can go back or if they can give advice to their younger self. What would be the one piece of advice that you would give your younger self? I know there's so many because there's so many wisdom to life, but what would be the most important one that you would give yourself?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I guess it depends on which younger self. This is the lawyer in me, right? Which age are we
Yeah.
talking about? Because it's like my college younger self, my 20-year-old younger self. I would say, for me, one of the things that I think keeps people from realizing their potential and their dreams is that voice that tells you, the conventional voice that tells you you need to be XYZ to do this. You need to look like XYZ to be here or there, right? And when you allow that narrative to control your life and your actions so that you're not fully living your best life or fully utilizing your skills to the highest,
Hmm.
best use, then you're shortchanging yourself. So what I
Mm,
mean by that is don't let fear, because that comes from fear, and having that outside noise and allowing that fear to hold you back um, is something that I think our younger selves, um, being impressionable, um, allow that to happen, right? So because we're not fully formed at that point, when you're in your 20s, your inputs from the world is what is driving a lot of your decisions. So for me, for example, it's like success means being a lawyer. Success means, like everything that I was driven to do was allowing inputs from the outside world
yeah.
to to control what I was doing. So when I let that go, and this is for an example, like I let that go when I left a career in law to go and humbly open a bun me shop. So in that sense, it's like I went from having a corner office wearing Prada suits, and now I'm sweeping the floors in this you know,
Yeah.
like oily kitchen in this 1,000 square foot, restaurant that, and people coming in, talking to me, looking down on me, questioning whether, my intellect, or not really knowing where I come from or what my goals and dreams are. But that's, again, letting go of what people think of you, because no one knows what your dream is. No one knows what your vision is. You let that noise to the side and you focus on what you have to do. So for me, being able to put myself in a position where I don't care what you think of me, and that I'm delivering your food and I'm running around and I
Yeah.
look like I, am, cashiering, and I'm running around doing all this and that. They don't know who I am, and they probably look down on me at the time, but it doesn't matter, because that is, letting that go. Who cares what people think? I have a vision. I have a goal. This is what I'm doing. And one day you'll see that. So I let a lot of that go, and I pursued something that many people told me I shouldn't do, or it was beneath me as a lawyer, as a
Hmm.
educated graduate student.
Hmm.
Um, because at that point it didn't matter. So I think when you're younger, that carries so much weight,
Right.
and
Feeling fulfill other people's expectation
yeah,
of you. Yeah.
right, right. And being able to not have to do that anymore is such a gift.
Yeah.
It's such a gift. So I wish I knew that earlier, I think, you know.
I love that.
So, yeah.
Again, that's another thing I need to hear from you. I don't know why. I was thinking about that, right? Because especially growing up in a Asian family, most Asian family are very traditional. They're expecting you to be doctor, lawyer, engineer, or something. You know how it works. So I totally understand what you're saying. Like to give up your high education job, paying job to a street food, sandwiches, it must be against what, I don't know, our parents' expectation of us or our family expectation and so on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was when I was doing it in the beginning, people thought maybe I had failed at law, or I couldn't cut it. There's
Hmm.
there's a lot of, like, noise, like I said, from the outside world of what success looks like and what it should be. And the trappings of that success, and how, so for me, um just focusing on what I needed to do and not letting that impact my vision and what goals that I had for myself,
Hmm.
really allowed me to pursue a dream that many people thought were beneath me at the time. But that's only because they didn't know what my dream was,
Right.
And I think, so I think that's a lesson that, maybe younger folks are better than us. They're really good at, like, um, they seem, I don't know, I could be wrong, but they seem to kind of be a lot more confident, or like assertive and sure. Like young women these days, it's amazing. They come out strong. They know what they want. I just was not that person, and so
I
for
wasn't
me,
either. Yeah, it took me for a while. I'm still struggling with that. So yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, thank you. That was a great advice. Thanks, Denise. And let me know when you're gonna be here in Galway. We definitely need to catch up. I know you're super busy, and I'm so glad that I get to do this podcast with you. And then, when we first met, I was like, I need to be on my show. So thank you.
I know. Thank you for having me, and it's so good to see your beautiful face again.
I wish
And
we could see each other in person, hug.
I know, hug, virtual hug.
Well, I know we're gonna see each other soon for sure. Yeah.
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
Well, thank you for being on the show. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
You
Thank you for
too.
having me.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.